problem number 16, we want to draw out a picture. So basically we want to draw a triangle with these given values. So okay, look, I know theta is in quadrant 4. So I'm going to draw out an angle that's in quadrant 4, just an arbitrary angle. Okay. And now this length around is theta. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop an altitude back to the x-axis to form a 90-degree angle. Okay, so now you see the triangle that I've created here. Okay. So we always, so I should note this, always draw your line back to the x-axis. Now let's go ahead and label what we know. Well, we know that for this triangle, this side is a hypotenuse. Our angle comes off of here, so we're going to call this angle theta, because it's going to be the same thing as the actual angle theta, even though this really isn't theta, I understand. Okay, but the angle ends up down here, so since it ends up down here, to create my triangle, I'm going to pretend like this is the angle theta in there. Now that angle has a cosine value of 5 over 13, so let's call this the adjacent side, because if this was the angle, the center, by the way, is where we're bringing our angle off, so this is adjacent, this is opposite. We have, by definition, that the cosine of an angle is going to be equal to the adjacent side length over the hypotenuse, which we're given is 5 over 13. So let's label those. So the adjacent side is 5, and the hypotenuse side is 13. Using that information, let's grab a different color here. Well, let's stick with orange. We know that 5 squared plus this side over here, the opposite, I'm going to call it x squared. The reason I'm not calling it O is because it looks like a 0, is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So 25 plus x squared is equal to 169, or x squared is equal to 144. So x is equal to positive or negative 12. So that means this side length is equal, let's do it in the same color, is equal to either a positive 12 or a negative 12. But notice that we went downward here, so this is going to be negative 12. I should also note, when you draw these triangles out, the hypotenuse is always a positive value, so I'd never put a negative 13 here. So the only things that are going to be negative are your adjacent side or your opposite side. It depends on which quadrant you're in. Okay, so that's where I get the negative 12 from. Now I can get the rest of the trig values. So let's write them over here. So sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So this is just by definition. This is opposite over adjacent. Cosecant is equal to the hypotenuse over the opposite. Secant is equal to the hypotenuse over the adjacent. And cotangent is equal to the adjacent, over the opposite. And we know what all these are, so we just fill them in. So O is negative 12, hypotenuse is 13. O, again, is negative 12, adjacent, A is 5. Hypotenuse is 13, O is negative 12, hypotenuse is 13, adjacent, positive 5, and cotangent is the flip, so this is 5 over negative 12. That's it. That's all you got to do.